So as they said in The Sopranos, it appears like we have some dysentery in the ranks. So Laura Loomer is Trump's strongest soldier, his number one soldier. This is the woman who has bust down the door in the White House and ran in and given Trump, a long rant on who the weasels are in his regime, who's not sufficiently pro-Trump, who should be fired. And for some reason, Trump takes this woman's word as gold, right? He believes everything she says. He agrees with her. Clearly, she has a strong force of personality and she can get him to bend to his will, which raises other questions about what's y'all's relationship really like, bro? I'm not saying anything in particular, but I am asking questions, right? So anyway, to the surprise of many people, including myself, she comes out the other day and she's pissed. She's pissed at Trump. Here's what she says. This is about the $400 million luxury palace plane that Trump was given by Qatar, which he then went on to double down and defend as if it's not corrupt. Can you imagine? If Joe Biden or Barack Obama took a $400 million plane from Qatar as a gift? What the fuck would the right say? On day one, there would be impeachment proceedings happening. Day one. Okay, ready? She says, how are we supposed to ever see the U.S. under the Trump administration designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization if the U.S. is now going to accept a $400 million jet from Qatar to fly the U.S. president and his staff around on? This is something we were promised would happen during the first administration, but it never happened. Both the UAE and Saudi Arabia have designated the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, and this week, the president will be having meetings with Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Qatar funds Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. It's going to be hard for the administration to designate the Muslim Brotherhood and obliterate Iranian proxies in Hamas and Hezbollah when Qatar funds the Muslim Brotherhood, harbors Hamas, and the U.S. just accepted a $400 million jet from Qatar. It's very disappointing. It's also worth noting that President Trump just signed an executive order on April 23rd requiring U.S. educational institutions to disclose the source of their funding. Guess where most of that foreign funding is coming from? Qatar and Saudi Arabia. The biggest lobby in D.C. is the Qatar lobby. We are watching an Islamic takeover of our country in real time. Okay, so a few things here. First of all, you will never, ever, 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 ever hear Laura Loomer talk about Israeli influence in our politics, which at this point is way more severe than that of Qatar. Now, Qatar is doing their best to catch up with the $400 million jet they're just giving to Trump. But Trump took $100 million from Miriam Adelson, $200 million from Sheldon Adelson, countless more millions from the Israel lobby in general. And that is why he said, yeah, I don't give a fuck, violate international law. We're going to let Israel officially annex the Golan Heights, even though that's Syrian territory. That's why he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. That's why he's greenlit anything and everything that Netanyahu wants to do. That's why he said, we're going to own Gaza, we're going to take it, because he's owned by the Israel. She'll never say a word about the Israel lobby, but Qatar, all of a sudden, there's a problem. Now, if you'd like to be principled, there are many of us here who are principled who would say, yeah, I'm against Qatari money in our politics and Israeli money in our politics, and I'm against big money in politics in general. I don't want any billionaire money whatsoever, right? I don't want any multinational corporation money whatsoever. Get rid of the fucking super PACs. Let's stop the nonsense, right? But she's not principled. She's not. Okay, but I'm not done. So she keeps going. She says, I love President Trump. I would take a bullet for him. But I have to call a spade a spade. We cannot accept a $400 million gift from jihadists in suits. The Qataris fund the same Iranian proxies in Hamas and Hezbollah who have murdered U.S. service members. The same proxies that have worked with the Mexican cartels to get jihadists across our border. That is the fakest thing I've ever heard in my life. This is really going to be such a stain on the administration if this is true. And I say that as someone who would take a bullet for Trump. I'm so disappointed. All right, so again, let's be clear about something. If it was the government of Israel that gave Trump a $400 million jet, she wouldn't say shit about it and she'd be totally fine with it. Let's be clear about that. But number two, what? She actually is clearly and straightforwardly disagreeing with him on this issue. She's saying, this is bad, this is not right, and you shouldn't do it. Now, I cannot get out of this segment without stating the obvious reality, which is what? We've seen this so many times with so many different right-wing figures, right? We've seen Joe Rogan do this. We've seen Alex Jones do this. We've seen sloppy Steve Bannon is probably number one at this trick, which is what? Come out there every now and then and offer some tepid criticism on a particular issue, right? And then, within the same day or if not within the same day, certainly the next day, you go right back to acting like Trump never did anything wrong. He's 100% right. You're on the Trump train. You're on the Trump team. You're with him all the way. So you express some tepid disapproval over a certain issue every now and then. And then you immediately go right back to the script. You immediately go right back to, Trump is fighting the deep state, and Trump is destroying the corrupt Democrats, and Trump is winning, and he's making this country great again. And I'm so fucking sick of this tap dance. I'm so sick of this tap dance. Because ultimately it comes to naught. Everybody needs to start thinking about politics in this way. It's about trends. It's about movements, right? And if you are still on board for the project, while you tepidly disagree 1% of the time, you're not some sort of brave truth teller. You're not some sort of hero. You're not some sort of principled person like these people fancy they are. No, you're a fucking hack. You're a total fucking hack. Because the fact, if it took this long, this was the first thing Trump ever did that made you go, you know what? I mildly disagree with this. Really? This was the first thing. Of all the shit he's done, this is the thing. It just goes to show you how unserious these people are. So what, Laura Loomer? You had no problem with Trump's crypto scam coin where he ripped off his own supporters 2 days before his inauguration? You didn't say dick about that. Right? Don't even get me started on the first term with the absolute warmongering insanity of his foreign policy, trying to coup Venezuela, increasing drone strikes over 400%. Nothing to say? Nothing to say. So I even though she is disagreeing with him here, even though she is turning on him, you bet your ass cheeks she'll turn her right back around tomorrow and go right back to the script like they all do. There's not a brave one among them. There's not a real truth teller among them. Because, by the way, if they were an actual truth teller, what would they do? They would have done a clean break a long fucking time ago. But even if I say, okay, forget a long time ago, what about now? If she were to come out, disagree, and then crusade against the fraud, war criminal, corrupt goon that is Trump on a daily basis, then we'd be having a different conversation. But she's not going to do that. Sloppy Steve is not going to do that. Joe Rogan is not going to do that. None of these fucking... Russell Brand is not... None of these people are ever going to fucking do that. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. And so, here we are, where even his strongest soldiers from time to time have to admit that this is fucking psycho, but it won't stop them at all. Now, again, compare the way they talk about Democrats when they have something on a Democrat, compare that to what they do with Trump, right? I mean, we're still talking about Nancy Pelosi's insider trading. We're still talking about Hunter Biden and Burisma. They do investigations over it, committee hearings over it. You hear about it years later. It'll be one day and they'll move on and bury it. And that shows the imbalance in our politics. And it shows that they are not serious people. They are partisan hacks, believe you me. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.